this particular webinar is to help you, security consultants or researchers, how to test with a very basic methodology. I'm not going to show you any super sophisticated zero-day exploits or something. This is mostly a security testing 101 and on how to test fintech applications. Also is oriented to security engineers who want to improve their platforms, right? So with this basic methodology, you can check quickly a set of basic security controls your applications must have. Also, the main idea I would like to transmit you is we should stop thinking that all the products and services that companies give us nowadays are secure by default. We should stop thinking that certain technologies are secure by their nature. For instance, whenever we receive or whenever we installed a new app from your bank, for some reason we think these applications or these technologies in general are secure because we have that sense of security when we think that those huge financial entities have the enough money to invest in cybersecurity and have the enough people to test properly the products. It's not true. With this basic methodology, you can demonstrate this is not always true, right? All right, let's get started. About me, a bit. Basically, I've been in IOActive for 7 years now. I studied a bit of economics and finance in college. Initially, I myself self-taught in trading. Later on, I took a couple of courses in the Mexican Stock Exchange and in a couple of institutions as well. And last year, I had the chance to bridge both topics, cybersecurity and trading. And the results were good enough to being shown at Black Hat USA. With this basic methodology I'm going to show you, I was able to do a basic statistical analysis with interesting insights. This is how this webinar will flow. I'm going to give you a quick intro on the stock markets. I'm going to show you then the methodology itself, the basic security controls we will check, how to check them with basic tools, and we will go through a case study. In this case, will be trading applications. You can create your own case study, right? Fintech is a very huge sub-industry in the financial industry, right? So there are many different families, there are many different technologies you can test in this industry. And in the end, I'm going to give you conclusions and results. Remember, if you have any question, do not hesitate and send your questions through the Q&A box. All right. This old picture is how the marketplace looked like many years ago. We passed from this to this. Less people, more technology. And with technology, we have the inherent risks. You know, all the risks we already know, encryption, authentication, reply attacks, etc., etc., etc. But the first thing is, I recommend all the people all the time, instead of just pen test certain technologies, instead of just rip the technologies or the applications apart, we should sit down and think a little bit and see the environment and see the industry you are on. Let's say, let's see, for instance, in banking applications, you have a centralized entity, right? A single point of failure, their banks servers, their banks networks, etc. On the other hand, on the markets, we have a distributed entities. We have ledgers everywhere, records, logs, etc. That said, the valuable information as well as the attack surface and the attack vectors are slightly different on trading or distributed environments than in banking applications, right? In banking entities. Now, let's see this case study, trading software. With your mobile application or your desktop platform, you're able to do many things, including transfer money from your bank account to your trading account. You can monitor everything, your net worth, your balances, your buying power, how many positions you have from the different markets, how many positions you have on Amazon, how many stocks do you own from Disney, etc., etc. You can go deeper with market research. Evidently, you can buy and sell securities. You can create alerts. You can even watch real-time news, CNBC, for instance, and the most sophisticated ones allow social trading, which is a different topic now, but it's quite interesting. Regardless, you are a speculator or an intraday trader or a sophisticated investor, whatever, all this information should be secret, right? Must be kept secret and should be only known by you. Now, let's see how many users are affected or how many users use these applications. As you can see there, these are large figures in tens of millions from the biggest names such as TD Ameritrade, Schwab, Yahoo Finance, Robinhood, Coinbase, which is the biggest platform for crypto, Oanda for foreign exchange, and those are only a few names. There are tens and tens of brokers nowadays. Anyone can create fintech software nowadays and, you know, start trading, start gaining customers for trading. The problem is it's here. This is something I want to explain, I want to show you. For instance, normally when you send a presentation to a call for papers in Black Hat or DEF CON, one of the important questions they ask is how many users are affected. In many cases, even if you have the most sophisticated zero-day exploit or the most sophisticated vulnerability or chains of vulns, it doesn't matter if there are only 20 people affected, right? In this case, it's the opposite. We have tens of millions of people that might be affected and are affected by basic security controls, which are the ones I'm going to show you in the methodology. Now, this methodology, it's nothing new. It's something we all already know. And this one helps you to verify encryption, authentication, authorization, resilience, which means basically the ability to recover from adversity, the ability to support denial of service attacks, for instance. Also, with this methodology, you will check security features and attributes that should be in place from the design process and a few other basic things. Now, if we break down these bullets, we have this list of security controls per platform. For desktop, mobile, and web, there are a few repeated cases, such as 2FA, for instance, because many web applications support 2FA, as well as desktop applications, right? But in the end, as you can see, our basic security controls are the tip of the iceberg. 2FA, automatic logout or lockout for idle sessions, encrypted comms, sensitive data in log files, secure data storage, hard-coded secrets in the reversed application, anti-exploiting and reverse engineering mitigations. From the mobile side, we have biometric auth, you know, your fingerprint or Face ID. Again, encrypted comms, certificate validation, a few session management controls, root detection, the app obfuscation. For instance, on the APKs on Android, it's a good control to have your APK obfuscated. So these deter reverse engineers, right? Also, we have hard-coded secrets in code. And finally, on the website, we have many of the ones we have already listed before. Session valid after logout. This one is interesting, is important, and is very repetitive. Security headers, cross-site scripting, CSRF, etc. And infra vulnerabilities, right? As you can see, there is nothing complex on them. All those security controls can be verified very quickly per application, right? What I did on this research was install a few applications, a few security applications into these devices, into these OSs. I had two Windows, 1.7 and 1.10. I had two iPhones with different iOS versions. Both were not jailbroken because all I had to do was to import the Portswigger certificate into the chain, and that was it. So there is no jailbreak needed. And the Android emulator, which is in the Android SDK. And evidently this is rooted by default, of course, right? This is for developers. And the tools that I used to check the list of security controls I shown you before are these ones. Excel. Excel is Excel, seriously. I recommend you to use as much as possible. Excel is one of my favorite tools. You can keep track of everything there. You can keep, you can create statistics, interesting graphs that gives you good insights. Also Notepad++, to copy paste your DOMs, your code, everything. I think this is the favorite tool for security testers and researchers as well. I mean, who doesn't use Notepad, right? Borg proxy to intercept the HTTP traffic, and tamper the data. For reverse engineering, I used just decompile, which is basically a .NET assemblies decompiler. IDA Pro, it's self-explanatory. Strings, to dump all the strings in an object. Android platforms, the small tools like ADB, Logcat, ADB Shell, etc. This PowerShell module, which dumps you the security flags that are implemented in PE executables and libraries, the DLL files, right? SQLite, to dump the content of small databases stored in your iOS or Android. And Jadex. Jadex is basically a GUI that automates all the reverse engineering process of APK files. You just choose the APK and you will see the source code decompiled. Do you have any questions so far? Let's say. No questions. Good. Now, with this methodology, this set of controls and tools, you can check any kind of software, right? You can check anything, which are basically the top 10 controls that every application must have, what authentication, encryption, at least. In this case, I have a case study. I'm taking the trading applications. And what I did I had a sample of desktop, mobile, and websites, which are some of the most used and well-known out there. And I created a basic table on Excel, one row per application, and the different columns were the security controls, or could be the other way around, same, but the thing is use Excel to keep track of your results, right? Now, let's see the results. The results were way worse when you compare to retail banking. For me, this was not shocking, but was interesting enough because in many cases, even when they were from the same entity, the same parent company, let's say a bank, a big bank, the software created from their investment division, the trading part, right, was not as good as the retail banking side for some reason. I think because retail banking is used by all the people, right? And hold on, one sec, thank you. And I still cannot understand that. Thinking out of the box, seeing the problem out of the box, you can imagine a bunch of developers in the same entity, or probably you can see different developers, different teams working on different solutions, which is the most common approach, right? But still, apparently, they are not communicating internally. You know, they are not sharing knowledge. They are not improving together. They are not doing this synergy to create better fintech technologies. Now, let's see the details on those results. Normally, we have medium to high wounds. The most severe ones are encryption problems, of course. Without encryption, it's quite easy to, you know, to eavesdrop your passwords, your trading data, etc. We have other problems such as DOS, out problems, session management problems. When it comes to encryption what I saw were partial and full encrypted, unencrypted communications. I think everyone here knows the risks of this, right? Any attacker could be in the same Wi-Fi and could intercept and alter the data, including the prices, the personal data, etc. A real case scenario would be, imagine you're in a coffee shop next to the exchange and you have your app, you know, working, or you can be everywhere, right? Trading in a coffee shop or something. And there is an attacker with a laptop sniffing, doing a man-in-the-middle attack. So when you quote for certain stock price, let's say Tesla, and suddenly you see that Tesla dropped by 15%, and you see, hey, hold on, this is a great opportunity to buy now. It's plunged. You could be trading on misleading information, right? This is only one example of many. Or imagine an attacker steals your password. The attacker goes into the website, logs in, sells all your position, which means that all your stocks, it's converted to liquid money, to fiat money, and that fiat money is transferred to a newly linked bank account controlled by the attacker, of course. And yeah, the attacker could steal your money. That's because two problems on encrypted communications, and the second problem is I found this when you link a new bank account, normally they ask you for the password. But I have told the brokers, I have told the financial entities that linking or withdrawing money from your trading account should or must ask you for a 2FA, a two-factor authentication, either an SMS or a magic link sent to the email from the main contact, right? But not all of them implement this feature. Now, continuing with the communications, most of the applications use HTTP. However, there are a few financial-oriented protocols, such as FIX, which is Financial Information Exchange Protocol. This is very old, or this one, which is a proprietary protocol. And they are still in use nowadays, 20 years later. As you can see, the copyright is from 99, and whenever you send your username and password, this is a data provider. It's a signal provider, actually, eSignal. And yeah, this is my password in clear text. This is another application. Whenever you buy or sell securities, you will see the get or the post requests, your account number, your pair, which is a pair of currencies, the amount of money, the rate, etc. Right? When it comes to FIX, this was created in '92, and nowadays is the industry standard for exchanging financial information. You will see applications supporting the APIs. For instance, the price connection over SSL or plain text. This is to receive trading data, right? Prices. And when you sell the trade connection, yeah, you can do it on plain text too. Why not? For some reason, they have this. Probably is for compatibility, or I don't know. Also, interesting things happen when the different developers implement new features. Probably they are unaware of using HTTP instead of using the already created HTTPS tunnel in the application, such as interactive brokers. iBot is basically a robot, right? Is your personal assistant. This little button you see here, iBot. The rest of the application goes over HTTPS, is secure, right? But when they implemented this bot, which is a voice message, or you can type your comments here in this text box. In this case, I'm asking for price. I sent the voice command price of Netflix. It was synthesized, and yeah. Then I sent the order to buy share at market price. And finally, I confirmed the order. So that transmission, you would imagine, is going through the HTTPS connection, but Wireshark shows you the opposite. Wireshark has a fixed decoder, which is a very basic one. There is not enough decoding, so they basically dump it in a raw data stream. But still, you can see here in clear text, right? User input. You can see the input, you can see the prices, you can see the orders, the ticks you are quoting, etc. This is because this particular feature was implemented insecurely over HTTP. And yeah, encryption problems everywhere. You can see here clear text data. This one is interesting as well. You can see this small button disabled by default. That's important. And personally, this is my opinion, right? Personally, I think this is my feeling, my sense. This is a way from this broker to say, hey, we offer you an extra layer of security. And we the researchers, the consultants, we are tech savvy and we understand what SSL means. But what about the financiers, people who studied economics and have no idea of what SSL means? They would think, hey, if this is disabled by default, I should leave it as it is. Just let me do my things, let me trade, let me buy and sell, right? The problem is you're using fixed unencrypted. You can see here values like liquidating values in clear text, etc. And we have another problem here. When you have a problem, you can upload diagnostics. Well, basically, this is a Perl script. It's a CGI receiving your diagnostic files, which is a zip file that contains a lot of information, logs with your, with figures, your positions, etc. This is another problem. IQ option. The entire application was secure, was running on HTTPS, but there was something interesting. This particular post request was sent twice, one on HTTPS and one on HTTP. One single request like this is enough to steal the session cookie. This is the only cookie you need to hijack the session, right? So encryption is one of the biggest problems here. We have half an hour left. I'm gonna go as quick as possible. This is another problem, denial of service. Availability is the most important thing in trading software, because if you don't have your application right in time when you need it, you might lose opportunities to buy or to sell securities, right? The problem is we are still committing mistakes from the 90s when it comes to limiting the maximum number of concurrent connections. That leads to memory exhaustions and many problems, many internal problems, such as this one. I created 300 connections at a time, and you can see my, the performance was degrading on the application until the application hanged and crashed, right? And in this application from TD Ameritrades, I did reverse engineering. It took me 2 or 3 hours to reverse engineer, the parser. And I finally found the language, the order server. I'm going to show you a small video. This is the application, right? So the order server is a TCP daemon listening on your port. So whenever you connect and you send garbage, you will see 500 syntax error. So what I did, basically I decompiled the application, I found the server, I looked for syntax error, and from there, I started the reverse engineering process, the parsing, etc. Now that I had the language, I created a small code to act as an order attack, right? Sending as many orders as possible, because it was possible. Why? Because first, the application, the server didn't have authentication. And secondly, there was no limit of maximum number of connection. So when I compile the code and I'm working on the application normally, right? The attack, you will see many pop-ups. Every order is a pop-up, and you can't do anything to stop it until something internal crashes, and you will see a null pointer, the reference. You will see the order, Python, Netflix at market price. And yeah, after a while, you will see the null pointer, the ref. Even when you stop the attack, the application cannot longer continue. And that's a problem. The application crashed. Imagine you are a trader and you see the news and suddenly there is a big opportunity to buy and you can't because you are under an order attack. We reported, they fixed it very quickly. Now they have a quote speed. This is one of the biggest retail brokers out there. TD Ameritrades is one of the biggest financial entities. And yeah, many people say, hey, but that service runs only on localhost. However, there are different ways to reach localhost, right? This is not a stopper for attackers. See this small function in JavaScript? Using XML HTTP request, using this object, you can create an instance and send as many GET requests locally from your browser. Now, if you put this small program into a website and you send it to a trader's email and the trader clicks and it's like, hey, do you really know what's going on? You will see how many users are connected. We have almost 5,000 until suddenly the application crashed. This is a signal provider. So the signals and data are not being provided to other applications anymore. So you don't see charts, you don't see market data. And there are many problems with that. This is interesting, dangerous features. Let's see if we have any question now. No questions. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Okay, we have a question. Oh, the Alex Hernandez, this is my friend. from Mexico, has the same name as me. SSL options for end users perhaps is discretionary way. The companies offer this and depend on end users to be use it or not. Yes, this should be mandatory or should be enabled by default. Should be mandatory, or at least there should be, in my opinion, a message saying, hey, enable this if you want more security. But nowadays, I don't think this is an opt-in feature. I think this must be there by default. I mean, there is no need of using HTTP at all. You should use HTTPS and that's it. This is transparent for the end users, right? The end users shouldn't see the SSL button at all, right? All right, dangerous features. This is not a book, this is a feature. And this feature, it's called DLL imports. There are many platforms, the most sophisticated ones, that allows you to create your own trading robots. You can create your small chunks of code to quoting the market, setting triggers, and when thresholds are reached, you can do something, buy, sell, liquidate your positions, etc. However, these imports don't disable the dangerous features, such as this one. This is MetaTrader. What I created here is my own indicator, which is an Ichimoku cloud. Ichimoku is in Japanese, right? It's a famous cloud. It's a famous indicator. I'm importing here the library. Pay attention. Put attention. The shell32.dll, shell execute. And here I'm executing the cloud, the Ichimoku. I'm using certutil to download the cloud from somewhere there. This is the cloud. It's a base 64 encoded binary. And finally, I'm drawing the cloud, right? It doesn't seem suspicious. If you're a financier, if you want money overnight, if you studied economics and have no idea of what base 64 is. So you have your chart, you drag your Ichimoku indicator here, and you have this small message. However, most of the tutorials I saw on the internet on importing these indicators, they basically say, hey, allow DLL imports and that's it. Even if they warn you that this could be dangerous, F it, that works. That will make money for you. Who cares? You can see the clouds here, but what happened behind? We have a fancy backdoor through this cloud. This is a netcat backdoor, and I have control of the traders box, right? You can see here trader, Ichimoku, and finally cmd.exe. This is a backdoor on the trader's terminal. That was fancy. I like that one. We have 20 minutes left. Let's go as fast as possible. Unencrypted stuff stored locally. We have passwords. Look, this is the password stored in plain text. When you change the password, well, the new password is sent to the log files. It's in plain text. Base 64, it's not encryption. Remember that. They are doing this nowadays. You have the password here sent to the email in clear text, which is not good. Stored in clear text. Coinbase, the PIN, when you enable an extra layer of security, a PIN, a 4-digit PIN, besides your password, well, this PIN is stored unencrypted. Why not? I reported this one in 2017. They fixed the password. You will see the password is no longer clear text. However, when you enable 2FA, you have 2FA password in clear text again. companies do not learn. Passwords in clear text everywhere. Now, the trading data itself, figures, amounts of money, how many positions, how many stocks do you have, are being sent to the log files and are stored unencrypted as well. Your balances, your watch list, your quoted symbols, your assets. You will see your net cash, for instance, here in clear text, stored in clear text, your portfolio. Your potential investments, this is a watch list I created. A watch list could be seen as a strategic list, right? This is your own trading strategy. You don't want to leak that. For instance, what would happen if, I don't know, Carlos Slim or Warren Buffett, they do not do day trading, right? They are far away in the sky, but what if they leak their potential investments leaks? Like, hey, I want to buy more stocks from Coca-Cola, more stocks from Apple, from Nintendo, etc. You don't want to leak your strategy, right? And yet your strategy is being saved clear text. Authentication. Most of the web-based platforms implement 2FA, but when you install the desktop app from the same broker, they do not implement 2FA. That doesn't take too much to create a small window, in the application to ask for the 2FA, because this is already implemented on the web API on the endpoints, right? On the mobile apps, nowadays, most of the mobiles support your fingerprint or your face authentication, right? Face ID. Many of them do not implement them. 24%. The SDKs are there already. The code is there already. It's not that hard. When it comes to passwords, many applications allow you to use easily guessable passwords, or when you choose complex passwords, they don't allow you because the passwords are too long, right? The maximums are 12 characters. That's ridiculous. We have many problems. This one, session is still valid after logout. For some reason, many applications, even in the big names, in the big companies, they forget to destroy the sessions on the server side. See, Charles Schwab, once you clicked on logout and you're successfully logged out, you can still use the same bearer token, the same session you previously had. Yahoo Finance had the same problem. When we reported this to Yahoo Finance, they fixed it in 2 days, very quickly. On E-Trade, which is one of the biggest retail brokers as well, they had this problem, etc. There are many features that could be implemented to improve the privacy and the security of end customers. Hardcoded secrets, for some reason, developers love to leave traces of their internal environments, love to leave keys, passwords, internal URLs, internal IP addresses, and developers also forget to enable anti-exploitation mitigations. ASLR, DEP, they are disabled. You can use that get PE security PowerShell module I explained you before to check your applications. Error handling. This doesn't look pretty. Error dump, a stack trace in my trading terminal. And there are many other weaknesses I found, like security headers not implemented in 70% of the web platforms, basic headers, internal IP addresses being leaked as well. Before I enter to the conclusions, let's see. Omar Espino, we have one. What was the company's reactions about, hey, you got a lot of software broken and vulnerable? They did react in a good way or aggressively? This was interesting. When we reported this, most of the applications most of the brokers never saw or email, never replied or email. I would say 90% of the brokers. Interestingly, only the big names, only the big companies replied or emails asking for more details. They were very friendly with that, and you can clearly see that. Hold on. You can clearly see that applications that invest more in cybersecurity are more worried about their products and their customer base, right? They are not aggressive. Only a few ones were like well, whatever, but it's not the case for big names. Conclusions. From the fintech part, apparently cybersecurity has not been under the, has not fully covered the fintech space. Many fintech companies, even financial entities or fintech creators, you know, there are third companies that create a software for financial institutions. They are not well versed in cybersecurity. And the second thing is what I said before, there is a clear correlation between the biggest brokers and which are the ones that invest more in security. You can feel the maturity of their products in terms of functionality, usability, and security, of course, right? Now, the conclusions from the security testing perspective, you could clearly see that with Excel and the basic list of controls, you can identify common security weaknesses, common, you know, security, the lack of security from design. You can also find security improvements. My recommendation for you is think out of the box. This is something, what I consider here in IOActive, most of the consultants, most of the researchers have learned to think out of the box. We here in IOActive have a very big list of security controls with many tests, many different tools, many different methodologies that are industry standards, right? But most importantly, our consultants and researchers have the experience and have that sense of thinking out of the box, thinking not only in technical terms, thinking business oriented. Before you start dissecting an applications and, hey, hold on, look, there is an internal IP address, or hey, look at this, this is sensitive information stored in a log file. It's like, sit down a second, think about it, and think, is it impactful, or this vuln is lame? We give this value to our customers with our application security methodologies, which also covers, of course, the tip of the iceberg. I showed you before the list of basic controls, but evidently we have deeper approach. We have more tools, more controls to test, and most importantly, experience and thinking, and the think out of the box and business oriented.